that doesn't seem like he belongs, right? It's the only one on this picture that seems like he just doesn't belong in the group. We all know about families who go through mental health. They're not obligated to tell you anything about what there's going on in their household. No one is, no matter what their celebrity status may be. For some reason, everyone feels like they were entitled to know. How did we not know? I'm like, you didn't care. They they done stories together, told stories about his life. This dude was a raging meth addict at one point, violent, very violent. He suffers from schizophrenia. They know it. They knew it. They were dealing with it as a family. But yet and still, this takes a dark and wild turn. A very dark and wild turn. Are y'all ready for this? So, as the son was supposed to appear in court, Nicholas was supposed to show up. He didn't appear in court today for the demise of his parents, and a lot of questions were asked. So the questions that were asked was, well, what's going on with his parents? What's going on with the mother? Where is everyone? Why is these things are not being addressed? What is the main problem here? So society decided, what's up? Selma, Alabama in the house. Ugh. So this thing takes a dark turn because they did it right in your face and everyone act like it was nothing. You know how people use their friends to push a narrative, especially in the celebrity world. It happens right under your face. Most people act like it don't exist, but yes, it exists. They play right in your face. And while they doing this, you're just supposed to go along with the flow. While they continuously take advantage of your naiveness to the situation. But it explains a lot more than what you ever could imagine. What did it explain? Glad you asked. So we can get to that point. Now, when we start asking questions about what this pertains to, what questions should be, if not asked at all, right? Who are his friends? Rob Reiner's got millions of friends. Millions. Thousands, rather. No one closer than the people close to his age, like Michael Douglas, Billy Crystal, Larry David, his former assistant, Cheryl Hines, and Harvey Levin. Now, that's just to name a few. Albert Brooks, the list goes on and on. But the majority of them seem to all share that they just happen to be Jewish. Now, if we go down this trope, And if we go down this road, you will start to see there is a big story taking place. Let me show you what they do. White people will go through great lengths to make excuses for themselves. This is a man who is the only suspect in a crime in which his parents are murdered. He's arrested for it. He's awaiting trial, and then this happens. Boom. Oh, he got triggered. Triggered? The hell does that even mean in this situation? What do you mean he got triggered? It isn't about what you know, right? It's about what you can prove. So, what can you prove? If you're one of them, they always like to go down this narrative road of, I'm the victim. But let's listen to this.
On Nick Reiner's case. And got to tell you, the schizophrenia diagnosis, by the way, he didn't just develop schizophrenia. He has had schizophrenia for years, we're told. And the diagnosis of that is going to be so important in this case. And part of it has to do with the way the mental health system works. So somebody who has schizophrenia often self-medicates, and Nick clearly did that, from heroin to cocaine to various stimulants, all sorts of things.
Now, as a former prosecutor, Harvey Levin is giving you his defense in his legal terms for his friend's son. Unfortunately, this man who killed his son, nobody's white is asking for his head. As if he was black, if he was Hispanic, say he was an illegal who came in and just killed these two people, they would be asking for his execution. But because it was their own son who suffers from schizophrenia, who they know suffers from schizophrenia, what do you think? Oh, he should be institutionalized for the rest of his life. No kidding. But look how they try to make him seem as human as possible, and that he's crazy by reason of insanity. Who uses heroin to self-medicate from schizophrenia? He's self-medicated. Self-medicated is like, okay, I'm gonna go take these Advils. I'm not gonna go take crack and coke and crystal meth, heroin. I'm not gonna take all that because I'm self-medicating. He's an addict. He's been in 18 institutions. It's like they only treated him for the drugs. They didn't treat him. They didn't treat him for the schizophrenia. Harvey Levin, you must think I'm as dumb as you look with this fake beard and this dyed beard and this fake hairpiece you got on your head. Listen, if if he's diagnosed as schizophrenia, they've already have his medications for that. So now you want to create their side effects. There's side effects to everything. There's no side effects. They say, oh, may kill parents in the middle of the night when you get angry. That warning is on every condition medically of a schizophrenic individual. The family chose to take the route of we'll just deal with him on our own with no institutions, no anything, because they're not getting anything done. What you're not saying is that Rob Reiner was an enabler. And it's hard to say that to a person who has a child who's going through that condition. But everybody else who's around the situation know that was the case. Plenty of people told him, you got to do things about Nick. We would love to have you here, but please don't bring Nick. And they wouldn't bring Nick to a lot of situations, a lot of events, unless he was on his meds, he was relaxed, he was calm. But Harvey Levin is not doing the family any justice by trying to justify and create a defense for Rob Reiner's son, Nick.
What happens is that somebody gets diagnosed with schizophrenia, but they self-medicate and they become a drug addict. And then in these rehab facilities, and he went to 18 of them, what they end up doing is they end up treating the addiction to the drugs and not dealing with, ignoring, or not even understanding the underlying schizophrenia, the underlying mental illness. So the person gets clean, goes out, has the underlying disease untreated, and then they go back to their old habits to self-medicate.
Let me tell you what this is called, and Harvey Levin can call in court. Speculation. This is called speculation, not based in reality or facts. What do you have to prove this? What case are you referring to? That is an isolated case, an incident. So now all 18 institutions that this man has been to, they've all decided we're going to just treat him for drugs and not know that this man is a schizophrenic. Oh, of course he's a schizo, because now you got to be a schizo in order for a white person to go crazy and kill his mother and father. Got to do that. It's got to be that. It's not normal. So it's got to be something wrong. And I'm not saying he isn't a schizo. He has been a manic-depressant since he was diagnosed as a child. They've known this. Everybody knows this. So this is not a surprise. But now they're taking him to a schizoid. This man would throw manic temper tantrums, destroy rooms. He's done podcast shows where he's talked about how he had a meth rage and tore up the guest house in his parents' home where he lived, destroyed everything in there. But you know what Rob and them did? They covered it up. They could have had him institutionalized, but they loved their child and didn't want that image to be on them, or the stain to be on them. And rather thinking what was best for Nick, they thought what was best for their image. And they decided to ignore and deal with it as a family. The kids didn't all agree and didn't think this was the best route for their brother. They loved their brother, but the brother was incapable of love. He lacked empathy. He knew rage. He would go from 0 to 60. It's what I was told by the people that knew him, hung out with him, some who even done drugs with him.
That's when it becomes this revolving door. And that's what happened to Nick Reiner. He was treated for addiction over and over and over. But the schizophrenia largely went untreated.
Not true. They treated him and they said for his schizophrenia, they gave him certain medicines for his schizophrenia that he already had diagnosed for antidepressant. And they said, well, we don't want him to get caught on these antidepressants. So they start giving him natural activities to use to keep himself calm. They gave him, it's not just about medicine, Harvey. They're actually techniques that you can use for those who are suffering from antidepressant and part of it autism, things that you can teach them to do to stop their conditioning. He said, isn't this from last week's Raw? Yeah, so now he's schizo man. It's like there's got to be some underlying reason for a white kid to kill his parents when that has happened a lot in a lot of households with kids who are dealing with mental illness because the families want to keep everything quiet and self-medicate and enable the child. And by enabling the child and allowing these things to go unchecked, a lot of it, I don't even know if he was really diagnosed. It left the family doctor divulged it. But this whole spin cycle is trying to blame the medical institutions that he went to without even knowing or seeing any medical records. Harvey Levin is just making an accusation of
And when
these
it did
facilities
get
without any information or knowledge except for what he was told.
treated, what happens is that there's a whole community that is dealing with the way doctors treat mental illness like schizophrenia. So what they do is they'll give you a drugs, and those drugs have side effects. And then if they end up in rehab or with another doctor, or even with the same doctor that prescribed the drugs, they will look at the side effects not as a side effect to the drugs, but something organic to the schizophrenia. So they're looking at a side effect saying this is connected to their problem with schizophrenia and not realizing it's really related to the medication.
Lie. Another falsehood that is told. In probably one instance that he found in a case that was like that, he decided to make this type of observation. All of this is theoretical and just off of his own, they do this. No, that's not how it works. See, there's different level of schizophrenia. Some people are paranoid schizophrenia. So if you're paranoid, you're annoyed. People can't. You don't like people to touch you. You become paranoid of everything. Some of those people they have different levels. Some people have to be on medication to keep themselves down, and they have to be institutionalized. You have people who are functioning schizophrenia might suffer from a dabble of it. That's why they call it manidepressant, which is just different versions of the schizophrenia. So you just don't start throwing meds at everybody, especially when someone goes in for addiction to meds or drug addiction. to say, oh, well, he became addicted to drugs because of the medicines he was taking, because of his condition, is a theoretical mistake. He hung out in Hollywood. He hung out in the Brentwood crowd. He hung out with other drug addict kids that were in there that were of the same small hats. They don't want you to believe that Jewish people actually do drugs. Yes, a lot of them do drugs, and a lot of them are on medication. A lot of them in Hollywood. You guys have access to drugs in Hollywood, and you guys made it available to a lot of people in Hollywood. You guys have children showing up to adult parties in Hollywood, and it's treated as all normal. What are we supposed to do? She's in the movie. She's 10 years old. Well, you can't have a movie rap party that got liquor, drugs, and cocaine and everything that you can imagine at this doggone rap party, and have the just because she was in the movie, she's 10. She shouldn't be there. Why is she there? She's 10. She's not supposed to be at these parties. And then you're putting them in an environment of peer pressure for young kids to experiment with drugs. Now they want to come up with a reason for the son's just crazy outburst all of a sudden, and decided to take out his parents and say, oh, it was his medication. Let's blame the medicine that he's probably been on forever. The fact is, Nick should have been institutionalized. They decided to self-treat as a family, saying this isn't working, these institutions isn't working. No, they work, but you bring him home to the same environment, the same people. He cannot live around these conditions where he goes out and he hangs out with the same people and he starts doing drugs and start doing his own thing. He got involved in poetry slams. He started going everywhere, hanging out in different groups, trying to find people that he could blend in with. And it was always the roughest, most disgusting place you could ever think of. But he had a green light. He had an unlimited card where he's spending his parents' money buying drugs. So I'm not blaming the situation. It's a lot of fault here. A lot of fault that was placed on the parents and how they chose to deal with this situation. Rob Reiner and his wife decided, and they made a decision to take care of their son, let him live at home, and treat him at home because they felt the institutions wasn't working. That was their decision. It's unfortunate what happened to them. It's unfortunate that their son eventually took their lives, but they were pretty much primarily at fault for they say, well, you try to institutionalize your kid. I mean, at this point, it was best for Nick to be institutionalized, in my opinion. He was a danger to himself and others. They knew it. The children knew it. Everyone knew it. Friends around him knew it. Nick wasn't well. He wasn't coping. He wasn't doing things well. And the ways to neutralize situations wasn't working. And the worst thing you could ever do to a person who's suffering from schizophrenia is to argue with them. That is the worst thing you could do. The absolute worst.
And it becomes this snowball that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And they end up not getting the treatment they need to right themselves, to stabilize themselves. So all of this becomes such a problem. And then on top of everything else, I interviewed a psychiatrist who said that there are 400 rehab centers in Los Angeles. He refers to 4 of them. He will make referrals to 4 of them. 1%. And why? Well, when you look at the ones that are $70,000 a month, what are they offering? They're offering, luxury treatments. They're offering swimming pools. And
once again, he's blaming the medical facility. Rehab places that are 70,000 a month. It depends on what part of rehab are you going. This might not be a place where they treat schizophrenia. That's why it might only be 4 that this guy would recommend who are good and especially in that field. You think after him going to 18 different places that he didn't land in a good one? Rob Reiner suffered from what a lot of parents suffer. They love their child so much, it pains them to have to put them in some place where they don't control the rules. They got to make the rules. They have to be in charge of how his treatment is going to go. Saying, oh, we want him here, but he likes this window. He likes this room on this side. We want him to have this room. He likes it when the sun comes in. We want him to be in this room. We want him to have access to this, and this. You can't control a person's recovery. You can't. So believe me, when you went to 18 different facilities, they probably told you something you didn't like, and you left and went to another one. No one just goes to 18 different institutions. But what Harvey Levin is doing is more criminal than anything you've ever seen in your life, because he's using a large platform to try to
and camping and scenic views. And what a lot of people are saying in the mental health field is none of that matters. And it actually can hurt because rehab is not meant to be soft. It needs to be a hard experience to confront a lot of things that are more than uncomfortable. And there are a lot of doctors in the healthcare industry who think that, number one, no place should be charging that kind of money. And number two, the places that are and are trying to justify it with luxury are not the places you want to be. Nick went to several of those places at the very least. And I will tell you that in doing our documentary, there are people who are saying that it actually can hurt people if they have a lot of money where they can send a loved one to a place that is trying to make people feel good and comfortable.
Well, that's what sometimes they want. And those are the facilities that you want people to go there to feel comfortable, relax. They have different mental facilities. Not all of them take schizoid patients. If they suffer from schizophrenia, they don't even say we're not equipped to handle a schizophrenia type of person that person might upset some of the people that's even here. This is a mental relaxation place. This is a retooling. They've used crystals. They've used all different type of Hollywood methods to try to treat addictions, paying out millions, right? So now, what is the said scenario to the situation? They take an avenue not usually traveled by.
Because that's not the point of rehab. The point of rehab is to stabilize somebody, and for mental illness, as I've been told from people we're talking to, good luck trying to deal with that in 30 days. This is not a 30-day quick solution. So add up all those things. Add up the diagnosis, add up the side effects to drugs, and mistaking the side effects for the disease itself. Add up the fact that people self-medicate, and then they go to rehab that treats them for the addiction and never deals with the underlying problem. Add in the fact that there are charlatans out there in the rehab community, and that some of these places that charge a king's ransom are doing the addict and the mentally ill no favors.
Well, here's the thing. They're not doing them any favors. Yes, that does not fit this case. And where's the evidence that it is? This is all to sell an upcoming TMZ documentary. Because why? Let's do documentaries now. Now, once the parents are dead, he's now been diagnosed with schizophrenia. This guy does not appear to be someone that is very unenlightened. Uh, Harvey Levin, he knows what he's doing. He's creating the other narrative to say, okay, we need a documentary here. So, what is our angle? We need someone to attack because everybody's on the same wavelength of attacking him because we know exactly what it is. The son was sick and he just took out his parents. We know that, but okay, we need a reason to sell this documentary. Blame the hospitals. Yeah, they the one misdiagnosed him. They the one did this. Look at all the hospitals this guy went to. They all messed up. It's all on them. So let's go ahead and do that. And in exchange, this is what you get. This is the reality that you're stuck with. So let all of that sink in. As people don't want to face the realities of it. I've known people that actually done drugs with in Hollywood. The guy is actually a director now. Mm. Yes. There are many of people that he hung with in the industry that didn't service him well, and he became unstable. And there's an incident where he injured a couple of people that Reiner took care of personally. They didn't involve the police. Police brought Nick home many of nights. Neighbors know. And in the entertainment business, it's like, once something happens, then the cap's off the cap's off of the bottle and everybody knows everything. Now it all comes pouring out. When they said someone is taking out your parents and this and that, who would do this? They knew exactly who to say. They said, oh, it's probably our brother. He's dangerous. Why would they say that off the bat? Because they already knew. They were just dealing with him. Most people don't. I would never want to date a celebrity. Dating a celebrity is troublesome. Hmm. Okay, if someone's not handling the addiction well, so what's your answer? Okay, they're not handling addiction well. So your answer is to go ahead and attack the person. Right. Harvey Levin and Diddy were great friends. See how quick they turn on you and show how much they're not your friend. They got to go all out their way to show you how much they're not your friend when the overall consensus is that you have become part of the problem. Oh, well, it's got to be a new detail or it don't work. Exactly what you were saying. If you are not, no, it don't work. If you don't have saying we have new information, there is secret, then you don't get the public appeal. The wild twist is on them actually trying to spin it so that they can get people to tune into their documentary. Most of the time, people go through life and they don't want to be bothered. Yeah, there's only so much you could do. It's only so much you could do. But what Harvey Levin did was what he normally does for everybody. He runs a spin cycle to what if. But instead of saying what if, he tries to talk as this is what's happening. How about when black people die, right, from overdose? There is no big investigation. Oh, so and so died from overdose. They don't. When white celebrities die in an overdose, they arrest the dude who handed the drugs. They find out who gave somebody the drugs, where that person got the drugs from, where the drug come from. They know how to trace the drug all the way back to its root and make arrests all along the way. Matthew Perry died. They lost their minds. Matthew Perry. Matthew Perry, a guy who was suffering from drug addiction, who was some of everywhere because of it. His drug addiction took him to levels other people had never even imagined. And what did they do? Pat him on the back. This dude that went flat broke. They bailed him out. They kept giving him work. He had to leave the show, go to rehab, and just come back to play on the show Friends. The show was over. You know what they decided to do? Put him in movies. Then that didn't work. Somehow, he just kept having access to more opportunities and more money. Then he overdoses from ketamine. And guess who fault it is? Guess who they blame? They said, oh, you guys, this is not what he ordered. He wanted this, and you guys gave him the ketamine. So now they went and found this girl that they called the ketamine queen, and then arrest her. And she's only going to pay a fine and be out. How interesting. Now, this is where it gets even more spooky. The world is an entirely crazy, fickle place. And because of it, people freak out and they have no imagination anymore. All of their imagination is just whisked away, like gone. Nobody knows nothing. So, with that being said, when it's all said and done, and when everyone turns around, you know what they're going to say? You know what everybody's going to think? Nothing. They don't care. They only want to pretend like they do. It's a double standard. It's always been. Demi Lovato, she OD, right? They went and grabbed the guy who got her the drugs, everything. Why? Because they still make money off of them. They still make money off the situation. We got to get rid of this person because this person might take somebody else out that we know that we got money invested in. We got to get involved. We got to get in there. Yeah, get in there. Yeah. So that's the angle they take. DMX OD'd, right? Did they do an investigation to find out where DMX got the drugs from? DMX was probably as big as Matthew Perry. Made more money than Matthew Perry. There was no investigation to find out where X got the drugs from. They didn't find the trail to arrest nobody. It was, well, DMX, that's a junkie. We gonna make a lot of money off of his demise. Demi Lovato OD, they shocked her back to life. They came right there. Get her back alive now. Mac Miller died, right? Big investigation. We got to find out who did this to Mac. Mac did this to Mac. Mac took the drugs. He was a drug addict. This is the part they just don't want you to know. No, they really didn't care. When someone black goes, it's all right. Let's start the money train. Juice World was on a plane, swallowed a whole bunch of drugs. Did they do an investigation to find out where did Juice World get the drugs? No, they just dropped about 5 albums of Juice World and keep making millions off of his death. Every year, new Juice World album come out. There were 783 different ways they could have handled the situation. They always chose the latter. Because they don't care when you're black. They just don't. So with that being said, it's your boy Carcino. I'm out of here.